George Russell has definitely been the standout performer of the season so far. Before joining Mercedes for the 2022 season, he'd only scored 19 points in 60 race starts. 9 of those points came from the 2021 Belgium GP that didn't see a single lap run at race speed. This season though, he sits 4th in the Drivers' Championship, with 84 points after 7 races. He might sit above his 7-time world champion teammate Lewis Hamilton, but is he actually outperforming him? Let's have a look. After 5 rounds of the season, the media and fans were trying their hardest to work out how George Russell was ahead in the Drivers' Championship. No one wanted to believe that the 7-time world champion could be beaten by a driver who was coming from a team that had propped up the bottom of the Constructors' Championship for so many years. His strong start to the season was noted by Martin Brundle in his F1 column. It's a tough time for Lewis and eager George. With most of his career still ahead of him, is coping better with the situation than Lewis judging by radio transmissions, stated Brundle. It wasn't just people in the media appreciating his work though. Team boss Toto Wolff was just as complimentary. When you look at George's track record in winning the title in F3 in his rookie year and then an F2, we knew that he was very good. And then obviously the Williams school added its part. So we were never in any doubt that he would be very good. And you can see that it's materializing on the track, Wolff added. I like his approach very much. He's very rational, whether he's the fastest in P2 or whether he's 11th. It's just about applying the science and trying to make the car faster. Wolff is never going to call out Lewis in public. The two worked together to create one of the most dominant teams in F1 history. The run they went on during the turbo hybrid era of the last 8 years was almost unbelievable. But since Miami, things have not gotten better for Lewis. Actually, they've definitely got worse for him. The media are starting to turn on the 7-time world champion, who's yet to beat Russell since the opening weekend of the season. There are only 2 places separating them in the Drivers' Championship, but Russell has managed to stretch his lead over his teammate to 34 points. As things stand, Hamilton looks like he's going to be in a scrap for 6th place in the Drivers' Championship, with Lando Norris and his old teammate Valtteri Bottas. If he isn't able to improve from there, it'll be the worst season of his F1 career. Ex-Mercedes engineer Philip Brundle has some theories about what Lewis might be struggling with. He speaks about how Hamilton needs to have the right car beneath him to get the most out of his skills. He's really a driver who needs a lot of confidence in the car. He doesn't have the technical background that Nico Rosberg and Michael Schumacher had. He needs confidence and therefore a really fast car, Brundle says of Hamilton. George Russell didn't have the same luxury as Hamilton did when he joined the F1 roster. Hamilton joined a McLaren team that knew how to create a great car and provided the young Brit with the tools he needed to win races. Since then, there hasn't been a season that Hamilton hasn't been behind the wheel of one of the best cars on the grid. While McLaren might not have always provided title-winning cars, they did give him a great vehicle that he was comfortable and confident in. When Russell joined F1, he was in a Williams team that had only managed to secure 1 point in 2 seasons. That kind of adversity breeds a different kind of driver. It taught Russell to be able to make the most of what he has and let his driving skills shine no matter what is happening with the car beneath him. This season, the Mercedes car has been a nightmare to drive by all accounts, and Russell is far better equipped to deal with that adversity than Hamilton is. Russell's confidence isn't dependent on having a fast car. His confidence is in his own abilities. Hamilton has been incredibly vocal about the quality of the Mercedes car this season, and it continued in Monaco. I'm praying that the car doesn't feel like it does here, because here it's felt the worst it has so far with the bumps, said Hamilton. My teeth and my jaw going the whole time. I'm done with the shaking. Ours is so stiff that the suspension is driving it back into the ground. I'm looking forward to some more open track, and I'm praying that it's not as bumpy as here. His complaints about the car could very well be a sign of the lack of confidence that Philippe Brundle was talking about. Whatever it is, Hamilton's lack of confidence has given Russell the chance to shoot ahead in the Drivers' Championship. Former team boss Eddie Jordan is adamant that there has been a changing of the guard since George Russell joined Mercedes from Williams. Absolutely. I think the big surprise is everybody globally in Formula 1 context thinks that Lewis Hamilton is top dog. Jordan said when asked if Russell had proven he deserved his promotion in the off-season. But he's no longer top dog, not even in that team, because Russell has taken his perch away. And I think it's very interesting to watch, and I want to see how Lewis is going to overcome that. Comments like this have been appearing more regularly around the sport recently. The image of the Mercedes team is that Hamilton isn't just having a rough patch or a streak of bad luck. The sport seems to be starting to accept the fact that Hamilton may not be infallible, and that with the new car regulations comes a new driver pecking order, one that has George Russell above Lewis Hamilton. There are those that are still fighting Hamilton's corner though. Former F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya said Russell still had a lot to learn from his senior teammate on race pace. I think George, on one lap pace, is doing a much better job than Lewis. He's getting more out of the car on one lap, said Montoya. When Lewis is on his A game, he's hard. I think George can do a job on one lap, but he's got a lot to learn from Lewis on race pace. Same as when Valtteri was there. The pace of Lewis in the races was incredible. Montoya's comments, like those of others who support Hamilton's side of the argument, fail to explain how he's only beaten Russell in one of the 7 races this season, if his race pace is actually better than Russell's. There's only so long that people can blame bad luck. At some point, there will need to be explanations as to why he's falling away from his teammate so early in the season. One man who will always have Lewis's back is Toto Wolff. The Austrian has actually responded to claims that Mercedes are going through a changing of the guard. He has said he is happy with how both drivers are performing, and he can only smile when he reads stories of saying Russell has replaced Hamilton. I hardly follow it, Wolff said when asked what he thought of the noise around his team. And when I pick up 1 or 2 remarks, I can only smile about them. George is doing a great job, but that's exactly what we expected of him, and that's why he's with Mercedes. Speaking about the Monaco Grand Prix, Toto said, "When you look at the bad spells Lewis had, stuck behind Fernando today, the contact with Esteban, the red flag in qualifying yesterday," added Wolff, "I think the pendulum will swing and this unlucky situation will stop with Lewis, as they are very much on the same pace. He could have been right there and close to Lando's pit stop window, or even fight with George and Lando in front, because that was his pace. They are very much on the same pace. One practice, the one leads, then the other. And that is great how they also work together to get our car straight, because we need to get that car straight." The argument for bad luck in Monaco is a fair one. Lewis got stuck behind Fernando Alonso, who was trying to save his tyres for 15 laps and driving incredibly slowly. He managed to hold up the entire field behind him as Hamilton struggled to pass the veteran driver. If we're talking about luck though, then Hamilton might be short on it in Baku as well. It is another street circuit that will be incredibly bumpy and uncomfortable for the drivers in the new ground effect cars. It isn't going to help Hamilton's confidence in the car at all, and we'll likely see him finish behind his teammate again. As things stand, it's hard to keep up the argument that Russell is just luckier than Hamilton, or that he's coping better. The drivers have been driving these cars for over 3 months now, and will have hours of time in the simulator under their belts as well. George Russell's performance this season is testament to how hard he has worked to adapt to the new regulations. He strives every race to make the most of the car he has. Every time people argue that he's only beating Hamilton because he's used to driving bad cars, or that he's had better luck, they're belittling the hard work that George has done. He's been consistent on track and positive off track. He's worked to make the most of what he has and is outperforming Hamilton at the moment. Instead of saying that George is only beating Hamilton because of the bad luck Hamilton is having, maybe we should be saying that George is beating Hamilton because he's actually the better driver. What's your theory on why Russell is performing better than Hamilton this season? And do you think he'll continue outperforming him throughout the season? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Until we see you next time, drive safe and bye-bye.